皆さんこんにちは。タッチベースの野村です。ついにコロナウイルスの影響で2020年のオリンピックの1年延期が決まってしまいました。特に宿泊施設や旅行会社は大量のキャンセルによって大打撃が予想されます。今や観光業が日本経済に占める割合は決して少ないものではないので、ここが保証されないとえらいことになるのではと予想しています。これから具体的な話が出てくると思いますので、続報に期待です。さて、本題のスペンサーに聞く英語ビジネスコミュニケーションシリーズ第5弾をお届けしていきたいと思います。これまでに引き続き英語を学ぶためには英語で学ぶのが一番ということで、言語は英語でお届けしていきます。今回のテーマはホームグッズソフトグッズ in アメリカのソフトグッズ拡販なら展示会から営業パートナーが鍵をお届けしていきます。ちょっとビジネスコミュニケーションのテーマから外れてしまっているのはご愛嬌です。アメリカでソフトグッズを販売するために片っ端から小売店に営業をかけても効果が少なく、バイヤーズグループにリーチができないと契約にはなかなか結びつきません。そこで重要になるのが展示会出展。展示会出展の際に必要なものとは、必要とされる英語力は、この辺の話を伺いました。では続けてどうぞ。
So today, I'd like to talk a little bit about home goods and soft goods in America and what that market looks like, and one way in which you can access that market from point zero, meaning if you're coming into the US with no real knowledge of the market, how do you get started? What do you do? So the first question is maybe what is a soft good or what is a home good? And in this case, what we mean by soft goods is that anything that is soft and that is found in your home. So pillows, for example, blankets, sofa covers, rugs, tapestries, you name it. These are all examples of soft goods. So if you are a soft goods or home goods maker in Japan, trying to get started in the US, starting from zero, it might be reasonable or it might be a sound initial strategy to go to where the top retailers are. After all, fashion and design centers and design decisions, those kinds of decisions are made at stores in New York City, in LA, or other major cities and shopping areas. So it might make sense to bring samples directly to those stores. The thought being samples could you could impress a client directly, especially if they're a single store, if they're only, or a small chain, if they're only one shop or a small chain, then you could quickly make an impact, generate some sales. However, almost all retailers, even single store shops, are for customers only. So even if you meet the store manager or owner, they're unlikely to want to take your sample or enter into a sales agreement. Some more established retailers and interior design companies have larger showrooms, especially in larger cities, and they're usually grouped together. For example, in Boston's case, there is a warehouse in the old Seaport district called the Boston Design Center. It's got 4 stories. You can sort of get lost in it, and it has these giant showrooms full of tons and tons of products. However, the Boston Design Center is still only for consumers, at least in my experience, except in this case, the consumers are larger, maybe real estate developer buying hundreds of units or some kind of corporate client. Like the small stores, I've found that large centers like these will not be interested in your samples if you kind of show up with a business card. So leaves the question, how do retail goods and retail goods companies, interior design companies, how do they make their decisions about what goods to stock? Where do they go to buy their product? So in the US, there's several major conventions, we'll get to that in a minute, around the United States, where representatives from everywhere and from all tiers of retail, meaning representatives from large department stores, managers, purchasers for major corporations, all the way down to, you know, a mom and pop shop where it's, you know, just one guy buying a few hundred units kind of thing. All of these people, including your interior designers, will coalesce at these major conventions where they go to make purchasing decisions. It's a great place to meet old colleagues, meet new business partners, as well as exchange ideas about new designs, things like that. The largest convention is called High Point Market. This is the largest home furnishings or home goods convention in the U.S. It's called High Point Market, and it is held in North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, in October and April. Other major areas are Atlanta and Las Vegas. So that's sort of very different from what you might think if you just look at a map of the US. In North Carolina, it's the reason that it's held there. Atlanta, too, is actually not so far from North Carolina. Again, when I say not so far, it's like 6 hours driving. There's a lot of factories there. The Northeast, the Boston, New York, it's very densely populated and very expensive. But in the South, there's more room to build. So I think at the High Point Market in North Carolina, there's a lot of headquarters for major US buyers in the area. Las Vegas, too, I think it serves as a nexus for the West Coast. If you think about Las Vegas, it's sort of equidistant from most sort of places on the West Coast. I think it sort of serves as a regional hub for people to get to. Now, with these conventions, there's certain groups in them called buyers groups, which recommend a certain style or a suite of goods to buyers who are interested. So if you are only interested in leather goods, maybe you are trying to sell some kind of seat cover or something, there's probably a buyers group at this trade show that is, you know, only interested in leather goods. So they would be a good conduit to help represent you at the convention, which can be quite large, you know, with tens of thousands of people. It can be very confusing. So working with the right buyers group is key to success at a convention, as they have access to this trusted network of people who are already interested in the type of product. If you try to going alone to a convention, it can be fun to sort of walk around and get a sense of things. But again, if you kind of go with your sample and your backpack or whatever and try to cold pitch vendors, follow-up will be very difficult and very time-consuming.
Okay, so what should you do then instead?
In this case, what I can recommend is hiring or partnering with a sales executive in the United States, someone who has a lot of knowledge, has a lot of experience in the industry. Mainly what that means is that they will know these buyers groups and they'll know who to contact at which one to help represent your product. So I think in this case, it's absolutely necessary to work with a local partner, and that can be an individual or it can be a company.
How could you find the right person like that?
Yeah. So.
Well, if you have any tips or like, you know, something.
Yeah, no. So when I've done this, and it's not just been in soft goods, but you know, when you need to find a local representative, you at least what I've done and my prior company did was go to job sites, go to the traditional ways in which you hire people,
like Indeed and LinkedIn, things like that.
That's exactly right. Those are the main ones, but if there's like a local agency or if there's some partnership that you can take advantage of, that's probably a good way to go too. But I feel Indeed is a little better than LinkedIn. There's a much wider reach with that service, and everyone uses it.
It's really hard for Japanese to tell which guy is good. I found that a lot of people in the US say, I can do everything, you know.
That's right.
It's like hyperbole things that you talked about in the previous episode.
So even one of my first roles in Japan, I helped hire teachers for the school I was working in, and that was my first real interaction with this. I assisted in hiring several teachers throughout my career, and a lot of them came up with those things that exactly that you said. They said, hey, my Japanese is perfect, for example, where, and then they can barely kind of say konnichiwa sort of thing. And you get into it and it can be pretty rough, reality versus what they say. So what I think is crucial too in that case is an ally. You need someone who's a native speaker who can judge nuance in a way that only a native speaker can. Likewise, when I see a Japanese candidate or when I'm looking to work with a partner in Japan, it's very confusing for me. Even though I can sort of speak and read, there's so much more culture that I still need to learn. And when you're in an interview situation, all of that comes to bear, and it's a very there's a lot of pressure in that interaction. So having someone who instantly knows what the other person is communicating, I think is very important. If you don't have that type of person sort of by your side, then you won't be able to access the talent that will be able to get you to the right buyers in the conventions, because it's a two-way street with interviewing and working with a partner. They want to work with someone they like too. So as I've discussed in previous episodes, there's a lot of ways in which Japanese clients can appear to be sort of very cold, even though they're not, where they may think they're being respectful by listening. They're actually appearing offensive by not asking questions, those kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, I think I keep telling this, but one of the biggest concern that Japanese people have is speaking English. So
right.
They would be worried about, okay, my English is good enough to communicate with these guys. So would you think language skill matters a lot in the convention, or it really doesn't matter as much as they think it would, and they should keep trying or like communicating with potential buyers? I mean, as far as I know, like in the US, a lot of business people who are not native English speakers, right? They're kind of used to the situation where they speak or they communicate with non-native speakers. So
well, I agree with that. I think that there's a lot of non-native speakers from almost every language coming to the United States in some form of business. So not all people from different cultures speak English the same. So a lot of Americans, especially Americans in international business roles, have gotten sort of very used to figuring out what the person across the room from you is saying. So that part of it isn't so hard, but there's a very large confidence issue in Japan. Like I say, again, back in my first days, I had a student who spoke almost perfect English. He was very good. He could read all the books. It was great. But he was afraid of going to a conference in the US. He worked in the auto industry, like his company built machine parts for agricultural equipment. It was actually very interesting business. And he was expanding all over Asia. Like he was going to China, he was going to Indonesia. But he was afraid of speaking English in the US. So it's a big challenge. If you're really worried about it, having someone who's there with you to help you sort of understand what Americans might be saying is important. But if you can, you should speak as much as possible to speak for yourself ultimately, because that's the most powerful thing, and that's what people like to hear. We have gotten a bit off topic.
Yeah.
But it's important. I mean, it ties into almost every business interaction between the US and Japan touches on this.